Good afternoon, everybody, and my fellow board members. I call this MNC meeting to order. It's our regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual. Today is November 5th, 2018. It's 1 p.m. I have a quorum.
We do.
Um, do we have any media?
No.
No? Okay, so we don't have any media. So I ask if anybody wants to approve our agenda.
Second. Oh,
Thank you. All in favor?
There's an addition. Yeah.
No, I'm going to be discussing that on the department head updates. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, agenda is approved. All right, I move to approve.
so I'm sorry, before you keep going, so we are not moving the programs report or the maintenance expenditures or project log? We don't have anything, I'm just asking, just because this is his first meeting.
Sure.
We don't have anything to discuss because once we leave them alone on the consent calendar, we don't discuss it. So are we? So
Right. No, he will be asking that question when we get the consent calendar. Right now,
What will he be asking?
he'll be asking if anybody wants to pull any items from the
Well,
consent calendar.
generally, we do that in the agenda part.
Yes.
Because we're changing the rotation of the agenda.
Okay, you don't need to renumber. If any item gets
No,
pulled from the consent.
that's
yeah.
okay, we don't have to renumber it, but
Okay.
usually, even in the board meeting, that's when we do it. So are we, so before we keep going, before we approve the agenda, are we moving any of those things to discussion?
Okay, let's put that question out to the people. And do we need to pull any items off the agenda?
For any consent.
From
From
the
consent?
consent calendar?
Do you want to, Ernesto?
I'd like to pull the consent myself. I mean, not the
What,
consent, I'm
everything?
sorry, not the consent, but the maintenance, the project log rather, from the consent calendar.
Just to discuss?
Just to discuss it real quick, yeah.
Okay,
Then you
all right.
can move the rest of the consent
Okay.
calendar.
So true. Do we agree to that?
Oh, just a sec.
What? Are you happy, Steve, with the financial report? You have no questions on the
I
financial?
had some questions on that.
Okay, so we would like to move the maintenance expenditures and variance explanations to discussion also. So, okay, because he has some questions, which is fine. So basically now, we have an agenda that has been slightly modified.
Okay,
So now you have to ask for,
do we approve the modified agenda?
I so move. Second by John. All those in favor?
All in favor?
Okay, good.
All right. All right, so the next item we have is the chair's remarks.
No,
Number
you
four.
have to approve the meeting report.
Oh, sorry, I moved too fast.
It's all right. It's your first meeting. We'll let you live
Do
through
we
it.
approve the meeting report for October 1st?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Jack, is your arm sleeping? Oh. Well, it must have been very low.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we move now next to the chairman's report.
No, now it's the chair's remarks.
Chair's remarks,
That's
yes.
you.
That's me, yes. What I want to say is that this is going to be a new year, starting now, first meeting, and that we should get our energy to consolidate and make it concise and to have a successful year instead of adding too many new projects, which we have already. We have added the dry rot, the street lights, the cul-de-sac signs. We have to consider whether we want to move ahead with the recess areas. And we will find out more from the energy consultant if we need to add some more projects. So I would strongly recommend that we focus our energy on all these things and move forward. With that, I move to the next item. Do we have any member comments?
Yes, we do. Martin Rosecrans.
Could you please approach the microphone?
Because you need to announce that for those items not on the agenda, this is the time you come on and make a comment.
Thank you. It is understood, I guess, but it
No.
is better to say.
Right, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Rosencrantz,
Thank you,
better known as Marty.
Martin.
Martin, oh, excuse me.
Martin. It's hard to notice, but the cold weather is going to come. And I represent the Aqua Fitness people.
Wrong,
this could-
wrong, I mean, you could, excuse me, you could speak to this, but this is an item that is a GRF item.
I have been to GRF. GRF recommended that I come to M&C. GRF is in favor and recommends that I now speak with M&C.
They would,
GRFM and C.
they mean, and again, we will keep this in the report, they're telling you to go to GRF MNC, not third MNC.
There's a difference.
This is a third mutual.
So as much as we would love to pay for the pool, we're the people you see for your dry rot and touch-up paint and landscape and everything having to do with your building. So it is unfortunate that they did not send you to the right meeting. Lori, could you tell,
When is the next meeting?
when is the next?
The next meeting of the MNC for GRF is in December. I don't have that date yet, but it will be in December in this boardroom.
Who would have that information?
I have it, sorry, it's December 12th.
Thank you.
9:30.
December
12th.
12th at 9:30, and two of our board members, which two? John and Kush. Are you on GRF?
I'm
Oh, no,
on-
Kush,
I'm-
John and Bunny and possibly Kush are on the GRF finance meeting, so they will be there at
GRF
the meeting.
MNC.
GRF MNC, GRF MNC,
Thank you.
okay? Thank you very much, and thank you for coming,
Why, thank you.
You can enjoy the rest of the meeting if you like.
or run away, as you probably will. Okay,
Is there anybody else who would like to address the?
okay, well, you're lucky. All right,
Okay, so
now it's up to.
we are now at number 7, department head updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. I just have an informational item for you. We distribute the item, you have it. It's operating fund year-end projections. We just wanted to give you an update of where we're at with our operating fund. As you know, you approved you adopted a $4.3 million operating budget at the beginning of the year. And as of the September expenditure reports, we are under budget by $1.1 million. And we don't
I'm
have.
sorry, this is in operating.
Operating, that's correct. Now, and we don't anticipate that trend changing. We will like to let you know that this is predicated on the September expenditure reports. So most likely, as of now, we are even closer to being close to the budgeted amount. So there is 3 expenditure items that have actually over budget at this time. One of them is in the general services area, and it's the concrete repair and replacement, which is about $12,000 over budget. The paint touch-up, it's $54,000 over budget, and the plumbing services are $5,000 over budget. However, I'd like to point out that as of September, again, we're 1% under the budget at the tune of $1.1 million. So it's very likely that this month, as of the new expenditure report, that figure will be even less. It will be closer to the budgeted amount. So again, this is just an update for you. There's some reasons in the second page of the memo as to why we have exceeded some of these budgeted amounts in the paint touch-up, plumbing, as well as concrete repair.
There's four of them. You didn't mention carpentry service, but you've got it listed on your variance report. It's off by 40,000.
Right, but remember, the variance reports are a month-to-month updates. So they're actually the amounts as, what we do is we do an annual budget, right? And then we take that and we divide it on a on a monthly basis, how much we should have expend on a monthly basis to be able to hit that budgeted amount. So your variances that you receive at the MNC meetings are based on that monthly budgeted, projected amount. So all of our programs vary up and down. Some of them don't even start towards the end of the year. So anytime the beginning of the year, you're gonna see large variances in your roofing, in your paving, in some other areas, because we don't begin those programs till the end of the year. So I would recommend that you look at this report rather than your monthly variances, because this is more of an accurate picture for you.
Got it, chief?
The basic thing, though, one of the things John brought up was carpentry. And carpentry is already, carpentry is actually
It's under budget.
under budget. And but remember, you didn't, but we coded $21,000 to fencing. It's over budget. Right, so it's 40,000 over budget plus.
No, it's not. It's under budget. If you look at your total budget amount on the yellow column, and then you look at your expenditure, actual year-to-date expenditure, we're actually under budget in that amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, there's two ways to look at this. and
Okay, I just
it-
want to go
yeah.
back to this. I understand it, but the thing is we were also have $21,000 that we coded. Jack, could you pay attention to this? All right, but we also coded $21,000 to fencing, because there was a bit of a to-do as to where did fencing go? Because a lot of the carpentry is fencing, correct, Ernesto? That's correct. So, but next year, we are going to actually put it in fencing. Is that correct, Steve?
That is correct, yeah.
So carpentry carpentry will no longer have the fencing. The fencing will go under a reserve
Replacement.
component.
Replacement fund.
Right.
That is correct. Yeah, we determined during the
Clear it
budget
out.
session that it was actually replacing fencing, yeah, not repairing it.
Okay.
So that,
So you're saying that by year end, you're going to,
very close to budget.
you don't have to spend it.
No, well.
I mean, but we want you to do what's necessary.
Yeah, my preference is if you budget it and there's a need, I want to spend it that year.
Correct.
I don't want to end up with any balance unless absolutely, it's
Right.
not needed.
Because
yeah.
it's not like the reserves. For the reserves, you carry it over. For operating, I mean, you don't lose it, but that doesn't carry over. Okay, our resident is back.
Very quick question. Aren't the swimming pools control, I don't understand why I have to go to GRF M&C. Aren't the swimming pools belong to the community?
They
This has to do
all
with
right.
the swimming pool.
The swimming pools belong to the community, but the community is divided into three components. United, well, third, I won't talk about the towers, and GRF. GRF, Golden Rain Foundation, is responsible, we call it our Parks and Recreation Area. They are responsible for everything that doesn't have to do with the homes. They're responsible for security, they're responsible for the pools, for the golf course, for the clubhouses, for the bridge room. They're responsible for that. We, on the third mutual, can make recommendations or suggestions, hopefully they listen to us, because it's our money that that ours and United, that fund GRF, but GRF are responsible for all of the activities, and a pool obviously would be an activity. Unless there's one in your house, then Ernesto would take care of it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does that explain?
Does that help?
Does it explains now? Okay, good.
All right, Mr. Chair, so that was the first item. The second item is that I wanted to pull from the consent, the project log to give you a couple of updates.
Good.
Cue that up.
The project log is, okay, we're ready.
Right.
Well, some of us like the big one.
Yeah.
So item number 14 on the project log is the parapet stucco wall repairs. And we had, on the last update, we had told you that we were going to be completing that work by the end of the year. I want to let you know that that work is actually, will be completed by the end of this month, and it may be even sooner than that.
You know, I actually met somebody who lives in one of those buildings, and she was, so I was explaining to her why that was being done, and they were very appreciative of the effort on the part of your department and the board to get rid of unnecessary things that cause dry rot.
Absolutely.
So I
yeah.
thought it was, I didn't know anybody lived in those houses, I just thought we had them.
No, it's a very good program. And then on the elevator replacement, I wanted to let you know that we've completed building 4005, which is actually being worked on, but we've actually completed all of the other elevators that were outlined in the project log. And we are currently out to bid for a new contract for the replacement only. We're going to keep Amtech for the maintenance portion of the work. They have honored their current prices. They're going to use the same prices that they have right now. However, for replacement of elevators, we're actually going out to bid. So, let's see, we also.
Question?
Let him finish?
Well, on the elevators. We had that elevator disaster, took them a week to fix. Do you have any comments on that? That sounded like something that, and we had that resident that got
Sure.
locked in.
Yeah, I can comment on that. We discovered that there was a hydraulic line, underground hydraulic line that had burst. So we had to actually close the elevator, and we worked to order the part right away. When that occurs, we have to get the State Department to actually commission the elevator for service again. So, and then the part that needed to be ordered was a long lead item part, but we put a rush in all of it, and we were pleasantly surprised that the state actually bought off on our repairs the first time that they actually inspected the elevators. Because sometimes they inspect them and they come up with a list of things that they want us to do in addition, but they didn't. They signed it off, and we were able to put the elevator back in service.
Can you tell us the building number again, please, of the accident?
2381.
Awesome, thank you.
I have my hair undone.
Sorry, yeah,
Ernesto, I'm glad you brought that up, and this is in his responsibility, but for some reason, you know, we don't have a lot of situations where the elevators are out for a long time, but we used to have a program with care ambulance. And so that if there was an emergency and somebody had to be rescued, so to speak, we were using them. And then we were told when this happened that we weren't using care ambulance anymore, and they were only using the fire department. And I would like this in the minutes, if you could put it in there so we don't forget it. But I think that this is something that has to be readdressed with staff, because I don't know if we should be calling the fire department all of the time. I mean, I don't know how and why that decision was made. We were never advised of it, because even when we would do the elevator refurbishment work, which takes, 15 days or
Right.
something, CARE always used to be on call. Well, if they changed that, they didn't advise the board. So we have to bring that to, I wrote a note to Siobhan, but we have to follow up on that because we really need to have a good program in place, because that's certainly not Ernesto's responsibility, that's our responsibility.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I spoke to Chief Moy on this because I wanted to know, after you sent me that email, what was the policy. And my understanding from what I heard from Chief Moy is that care ambulance, it's really an option for the residents to use that service.
Well, we didn't have that in the past.
Yeah, but they have to call on themselves. It's not through the mutual.
It
that is
used to be
provided.
through the mutual.
Okay, so apparently now it isn't. It's something that the resident.
3 months ago.
Yeah, if they feel that they need to be moved, that they can always call care for that service, but it's not provided through the mutual.
They're not doing it even for the resident. And the fire department, in this case, all they did was take the person and get him down, ground level, not to put him back or anything. They said, that's it, that's all we're gonna do.
That's
They
correct.
didn't
That's-
really want to respond.
So it seems there that
There is some
we
information.
need a program. We can't just leave somebody downstairs. I don't know why care stopped. And I know that the foundation does all of this stuff to recommend that people get care. So should we take this to Chief Moy? Is he the one who made the decision, or was it something that came from Brad's office? I don't exactly know how we take the, looks like something good for finance. No, kidding. No, but we have to make sure that we have a procedure in place. I don't know exactly how to do
I
it.
have Roy, then Jack, and then John. Roy?
Ernesto, has this ever happened before?
Not that I'm aware, not since I've been here. You know, I haven't seen that occur. no.
Are the hydraulic hoses part of the routine
No.
annual checkup?
Oh, absolutely, all of
was
it
my
is.
point.
Yes. They
Okay.
do test those lines, make sure that
So
they're,
this was just happened?
it just happened, and probably age of the hose.
Well, that's the reason I asked. I mean, is there any
Right.
preventive maintenance that we could do to make sure this doesn't happen? Because when it does happen, they have to pump all that stuff out, causes a huge mess.
Yeah, on hydraulic lines, typically, they're under pressure all the time.
Right.
And if they're holding the pressure, they're usually left alone.
Okay.
They're not, you know, you don't pressure them higher to see if they burst.
see
or
if they
It's just if they're holding pressure.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Jack, did you have something?
Yeah, I had the good fortune of using Care Ambulance a couple times in the last few months. And one of the things that struck me was the fire engine that came with it. And I asked them about that, and I was told that anytime they get a call to do something other than relocate a patient, you know, from here to a nursing home, say, as a matter of practice, they ask the fire department comes because until they get here, they don't know if there's going to be an issue that will require something other than transportation. Secondly, Care Ambulance has an insurance program. It's $90 a year. And they'll come in no charge
Any number of times.
for that 90 bucks. As many times as you have a heart attack, they'll be here. The third one.
You're
you
allowed
pay.
to have as many as you want.
So,
John?
You have to make them in your will.
I essentially had the same question as Roy, and that is, should we take a look at the other elevators and maybe have, that there was any kind of an indication that there might be an issue?
Well, you do contract for an annual maintenance with Amtech. They're the elevator gurus, and they do look at, they have a checklist of things that they do check. I imagine hydraulic lines, particularly if they're under slabs or anywhere else, they will look at the pressure on those lines. If the pressure is reduced, then that means that they're spewing oil somewhere. But you do have a maintenance, annual maintenance contract. And you do have an elevator individual that it's in the community almost 24/7, addressing any elevator issues that you may have.
Yes, Steve?
just as a side note to Jack's comment that the
Care Ambulance Service is $90 a year for the service. Our website is showing that cost to be $63 from December of 2017, so someone should update
That'll
IT
be
or
our
someone to,
communication person can handle that.
whoever that is. I just happened to look at it, so I thought I would bring it to your
We'll
attention.
let Eileen know.
Well, no, but yeah, I mean, but the thing is I'm most worried about what do we have as our procedure in an emergency? And, you know, so that's the one that,
Beth was the first one from GRF that was notified.
well,
I don't know why she was notified first.
because it was, Beth is very active in the Catholic Church here, and it was somebody who was in, so she was notified because it was somebody who she knew from church.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, if I may continue. So the last item that I just want to update you on is the walkway lighting. We completed that project, and actually we found additional lights that were not discovered when we did our initial walkthrough to add it to the scope of the contractor. So we found those lights. The majority of them were in poor shape and not working, but they were hidden behind landscaping and other areas. So those were also included in the contract, and we were able to get that work done within the contract amount, the contingency on the contract amount. So that contract is now complete.
I have a question.
Yes, Rosemary.
A former board member who was on the Energy Committee sent you an email about the walkway lighting. And I know one of the things we had discussed in the past was going to look at the other areas where lighting might have been at need. But then on the other side, we said we weren't sure if we were going to wait because we wanted to see what happened with the street lighting.
exactly.
So is that where our plan still is?
Yeah, that's basically the recommendation that staff made to you, that you wait until you upgrade the high-power sodium lights to LEDs in the streets to see what the lighting levels are everywhere. Now you have all brand-new LEDs in the walkways, bearing in mind that they're not safety lighting. They're
Right.
really directional lighting, aesthetic lighting. So I see this as an ongoing program. Once we convert the streetlights, we'll have different lighting levels, and now you have different lighting levels in your walkways. Let's complete all of that, and then we look to see where the deficiencies are. And then, as I mentioned, I foresee this as an ongoing program. Yeah.
Do you have any update on the process that is going on between SCE and us and the consultant?
Absolutely, yes. We've been working with Siemens. We have not, Edison has actually pushed the can down the road as far as inspecting.
You mean kicked it down the road? Or pushed it?
It's that thing down.
Kicked it, pushed it. And they've delayed their audit of the system that we were supposed to purchase from them. The sequence is that they conduct an audit. After they conduct that audit, they send us a bill for the assets. They have not done that. We're now waiting for Edison to do that. We're moving forward to conduct our own audit. We're also working with Siemens, and Siemens has already given us a number of fixtures for us to consider doing pilots with. And we've also recommended a couple of areas to do the pilots. So at the next energy meeting, we're going to be presenting a report with our recommendations for the pilot areas, as well as the fixtures with their photometrics, their energy characteristics, and their cost, so that we can get direction to move forward with some pilots. The idea of the pilots is that we would install these fixtures on some streets at some intervals, so that the community and the boards can see what the pilot, what the lighting levels are and whether they like the fixtures that are being proposed. They'll have the cost information relative to the purchase of those fixtures. And then a decision will be made moving forward so that when Edison is ready to do their work and they send us a check when we take over the asset, we begin that LED conversion program right away.
Will we be able to do the testing or the pilot before we buy the poles?
Separate issues. The board has already decided to purchase the asset, so we're doing that.
Okay.
But the pilots will definitely be done before a decision is made relative to what fixtures to go with.
No, he isn't,
Right.
you weren't asking, I don't think he asked that. What he was asking is if, correct me, if they're dilly-dallying getting the information, we can't do the pilot until the pole is ours, is that correct?
That is correct.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, we cannot touch the asset until it's ours.
Correct.
So what we wanted to do is get ahead of that, though, and be ready to convert to LED.
So as soon as we sign the
as
check,
soon
we
as
can do the
As
pilot.
soon as we took over the asset, that's correct.
Yes, Rosemary, you had a question?
Ever since you've talked about this thing, I don't go anywhere without looking up at the light poles, truly, even when I'm driving. But I see, sometimes I see a light pole that has two lights on it. Is that like an old style? Or,
No.
Because I'm going, God, we could really use those, I think.
Yeah, no, it's not an old style. It's really what's typically used in all municipalities that I'm aware of. The mushroom heads that we have in this community are really used more in private communities, parking lots, small centers, but they're not intended as truly safety lighting. The Cobra heads, those are the ones with the arm and the head on it. They're called Cobra heads. Those are what are rated for actual traffic and more safety. So we had asked Siemens to provide as one of the fixtures to upgrade to LED, those Cobra heads. Sometimes they come in two from one pole. In the case of our streets, there will be a single arm, unless we want to add an arm to the other side for additional lighting. But what will be proposed is a single arm with a Cobra head on them. That will be one of the fixtures. The other fixture will be to replace the actual mushroom fixture, which is fairly expensive. And I believe the other option will be to replace just the bulb, to rebulb the mushroom fixtures. Those are a lesser option in terms of photometrics, in terms of lighting capacity. And, but anyway, those will be presented to the Energy Task Force.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Any questions? Oh, Steve?
In reference to what Rosemarie said, my observation has been that poles that are on the side of a street that have an arm are the single arm, and where you see a pole with double arms, it's in the median of, that's
No,
been
I
my.
actually saw one on a side street, because I was thinking of where I live on Cali Sonora. There's a pole, and it's supposed to light both sides of when you're driving up that street, and it's like so dark, my dog won't even walk there. So but I understand what you're
Right.
saying, and again, lighting is not my
Yeah, but they're not,
area of
but,
expertise,
yeah.
but I was interested in seeing that, I've never noticed, I
Right.
never
Never
looked
seen one like
but you're right, they're not specific to medians. They are typically, whenever we have a median, we do light both sides
Right.
because traffic in both directions. But you can add an extra arm to any Cobra head lighting anywhere. In cities, they would do it if there's a particular area that they want to light for pedestrians on the other side. The problem we usually have with that is that the reflection from the light disturbs residences. So it's typically not, it's not a typical solution, but you can add a Cobra head arm on either side of a pole.
Well, there's some places in here where we just have like streets, where there aren't houses. I mean, I could think of there's some of the streets when you go driving out of like Clubhouse 5, but I think also of my neighborhood, because there's a lot of street, because they're the three-story buildings, so they're far off, and they're asking these street lights to light a lot. But it'll be very interesting to see.
I guess Siemens will have to come up with some
I'm
solutions.
sure they will.
Right, right. They were going to recommend a wattage to use, hopefully the minimum wattage to provide the illumination that we need. But again, that's up to the community and the board members. Once we install those and you look at the pilot, if you want to go up on wattage and you want to increase your lighting, you can do that. That's all going to be part of the process of discussion with Siemens. So, Mr. Chair, the last
Just
item, go ahead.
One
Steve,
second.
wait, Steve had a question.
Steve, you had a question?
Has Southern Cal Edison talked any more about replacing these 3 poles that are down?
That was my
They are on their list to replace. You know how expedient they are? So.
2 years from now.
So, because one of the questions that was raised by Bunny was, to me the other day was, well, are we going to actually get those fixtures put up before we acquire it? And the answer is yes. We're going to take the infrastructure as is, but if the pole is on the ground, obviously we're not going to pay for that. So even though that's not codified in the agreement, the idea is to take the infrastructure in a working condition. So that's the answer to that.
How many poles do we have missing? I know there's
I think
one on the corner of El Toro and Calle Sonora.
Missing, I believe that there's only 1 or 2, or 3,
Daniel
is it
said
3?
3.
Yeah, so 3 poles at this point. And they're on the list, and Edison is aware of them.
Okay.
And they'll be addressing those before we take over the infrastructure. The last item, Mr. Chair, is, and thank you for reminding me, it was related to the chargeable services
Okay.
that the board just instituted. As you know, that they've considerably increased the list of chargeable services offered to the residents in Third. I wanted to report that as of the new list being put in place, we've incurred about 262 man-hours of work towards this.
Wow.
Yeah, towards this chargeable services. And that is a total of 237 work orders that have been put in place. So the word is out.
Okay, well,
and it's being
so
used.
that's a lot, see,
Yeah.
and we wanted to know that, to see if we had to promote it more, because nobody knew, because people I still get emails about it, so then that's a good amount, let's not get crazy now. I won't
Yeah.
put it.
Do
we
not
won't-
despair. We
Yeah,
have a-
we won't put it on the news, we'll keep it, we won't mention it every Monday when we're on television, but that's good. And are you, I'm sure you are we tracking what is the most popular and what, and then you could provide it to the,
We are, one of the most popular items that I see here, with 96 tickets total, is the repair and replacement of outlets. Also, door stops, bumpers, and exterior doors, that's a popular item, as well as, let's see, light bulb replacement, 45 tickets
okay,
also. yeah.
so
It's getting there.
but we sort of thought that after it's been around a while, you would say, I don't need to have this list so big. These are the things that people really, really need, so it's already seems.
But people will call for their water heater or
Yeah, well,
their,
right.
yeah.
But that's they always could have called for that. This was the other thing. So I wonder what these people were doing before. Just having broken outlets.
Or contracting with an electrician that, $125 an hour.
So then then you've done a good thing.
Yes.
No,
Actually, we should promote the refrigerator pipe, the water
I-
pipe. We should promote that
that and the
vigorously.
smoke detectors, but
Yeah.
let's give,
No, but
and
that's-
let's
No,
give
No,
them
the
a
reason
break.
being that if they don't replace the water for the refrigerator, it might cost them $2,000, $3,000
You know,
in
every time I
damages.
see the dust that's on my pipe there, I say, oh, I should call.
You want me to help you with that?
Next question.
Okay,
Hey,
sure.
on the, if I was to call, said I've got a refrigerator, double doors, I want to replace the
Hose.
hose on the back. Do you guys actually have one of those little dollies you put underneath, you can pull it out with? So I heard that sometimes the dollies we have don't work, because there's such little clearance at the bottom.
Yeah, most refrigerators are actually on wheels.
Mine
but-
is.
Yeah, most refrigerators are. But if they don't, I'm sure that our staff has a jib or something that they'll use to prop it and move it back. Yeah,
Okay.
They would do it. They won't pick it up, I can
Oh,
guarantee
So,
that, yeah.
so you will let us know when you want us to start promoting this heavily.
Yeah,
I will also let you know how much more to budget next year.
Well,
for
but no, because the revenue you're collecting should cover the labor.
It should offset it. That's the idea.
Correct. So if it is being billed correctly, oh, wait, I'll look at Jack there.
No, it's not the funding, you're absolutely correct. It's not the funding. The funding will offset.
hours
Will
that
offset.
you-
It's the labor time,
Right,
the
well-
bodies, yeah.
That
Well-
was my concern when this thing was being voted on, that you've only budgeted 880 hours. And would that be enough for the whole year?
Yeah, but he could always say, I have to add one person, and this is how much revenue you anticipate. I mean, that's the flexibility
Exactly.
of this.
Yes,
Exactly.
okay.
Jack has his hand up.
What you've got, though, is a phantom expense. You're charging the time that people are working for residents, but that is something that they're not doing on behalf of the association. In other words, the person's being taken off whatever his regular job is to do something else. So that's an expense that you're bearing somewhere.
Well, it's not only an expense, it's something that we really want to cure.
Yes.
In next year's budget, because we don't want to defer the services that we promised the mutual that we will be doing for you, yes.
Yes, but in managing the department, you know that I have to correct this. You know, and then he can recruit the labor that he needs to allow for the service.
And that costs money.
So
So
does
that,
collecting.
Are we
that's
done
all
with
my
the
comments.
Project report?
Thank you very much
That's
for
it.
that report.
Thank you, thank you. So we have no other reports on, that we need to discuss?
number 9.
The maintenance and expenditure variance,
Okay, I thought we,
and Steve knows,
Did-
Steve has questions that he wants to.
You answered all my questions, but could you elaborate a little bit on the paint touch-up? Because it's over quite a bit, and I think I know where you're headed, but in your explanation, you talk about work you've done for the resales division, things like this that we probably aren't aware of.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, on paint touch-up, the overage is primarily due to patching of plumbing repairs. That, we've had an increase in service on that. We've completed, as I mentioned in my other report, over 1,000 service orders to date. So we definitely under budgeted for that. We did not anticipate the number of service requests we were going to receive. Bear in mind that crew also patches drywalls for bees that we find where we have to make cuts in the walls and repair the wall after the bees are eradicated, rodent penetration cuts, and then, of course, all the moisture intrusion issues that result from repairing the pipes and doing the cleanup and the dry up. We come back and follow with the paint touch-up crew to repaint and patch up those areas. So it's essentially a number that we did not anticipate. We budgeted a little bit lower than we should have, but it's a budget. It's, hard to hit it exactly where it's at.
Is much of this connected with dry rot?
No, not much for
Okay.
dry rot, no. That's addressed through the prior paint and the paint programs.
anybody have any other questions?
No.
Okay. So We've taken care of the project log, maintenance expenditures, program reports. We have no
How
new,
could we be done?
because that's the efficiency we are going to
Wait a minute.
have this
We
year.
have to talk about something.
We will,
No.
we will. Just hang on. So if we have no other items at this time, so we can, committee member report, comments? Anybody?
I just have a question. How could we be done? What did we?
This
what did-
is November.
No, did you spend like five? Did you spend like 500 hours going over this before? I mean, that's like, I mean, it's like incredible.
Incredible, yes.
Wait till you see tomorrow.
I'll start with Steve if you have any comments.
Says tomorrow gonna be 10
Congratulations on
minutes?
your chairmanship.
Thank you,
You're doing an excellent job.
thank you. I'm floundering and learning.
Wait,
Jack,
Nothing.
Roy,
I think we can all learn from you, Kush.
Yes.
thank you.
you could run the board meeting.
I
Yes.
will,
Yeah.
Oh, they'll want nothing.
not bad. John?
Yes, I'll be out of town on the 14th of November, and that's when you all have to vote for the $500,000 GRF construction fund issue that we've discussed a number of times. I recommend that you read it ahead of time because that vote is due, and it's an all boards vote, and it's a very important issue.
Thank you, I will. Steve? Madam, you, Rosemary, any comments?
No, but I do have a question, and I think at some point in time, if you could do such a great way of getting through all this, we might be able to go back to an every other month meeting.
We are considering that, and we will discuss that further later on.
So, I mean, I think the one department that I have a really hard time doing that with is finance, because I think looking at what's going on is so huge, because everything we say, oh my God, what about this or what about that? But I think that if you can get to that, but I mean, I'm very impressed. You did a great, we met more getting ready for this than doing it. So good job.
Thank you, appreciate it. James? No comments? Okay, with that, then.
Did you ask Ernesto if he wants to say anything?
Of course, Ernesto said a lot of things to me, and he will say it always, so,
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
okay.
Lori? Look, she's so excited to be getting out of here so early. She's like, I could see her feet dancing under the
Well,
table.
We still have closed session.
Okay, I know, but still. All right, well,
That should be quick, though.
So date of our next meeting is December 3rd, 2018, and with that, I adjourn this meeting.
to go to close.
And now we shall go to close.
No, usually you give everybody like a 5-minute
5 minute-
bathroom break or something.
Okay, it was such a short meeting, I didn't know if everybody wanted to take a break.
Yes.
And I think we should really do that,
What, take a break?
take a break.
Oh. Wow.